You know that feeling when your day finally slows down and you just want to relax, unplug, and feel good? That's where Mood.com comes in. They're changing the game, delivering legal THC products right to your door, no shady dealers, and absolutely no medical card required, just good vibes and better sleep, shipped straight from their farm to your couch. From delicious THC gummies, smooth vape pens, to premium THC flower, Mood has it all. And everything's federally legal under the 2018 Farm Bill. Yeah, this isn't some loophole. It's the real deal. Head to Mood.com and use code FIRST20 for 20% off your first order. That's MOOD.com. Find your mood.
One of the hardest parts of getting older is feeling like something's off in your body, but not knowing exactly what. It's not just aging, it's often your hormones too. When they fall out of balance, everything feels off. But here's the good news. This doesn't have to be the story of your next chapter. Hormone Harmony by Happy Mammoth is an herbal formula made with science-backed ingredients designed to fine-tune your hormones by balancing estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, and even stress hormones like cortisol. It helps with common issues such as hot flashes, poor sleep, low energy, bloating, and more. With over 40,000 reviews and a bottle sold every 24 seconds, the results speak for themselves. A survey found 86% of women lost weight, 77% saw an improved mood, and 100% felt like themselves again. Start your next chapter feeling balanced and in control. For a limited time, get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com with code NEXTCHAPTER at checkout. Visit happymammoth.com today and get your old self back naturally.
Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side of podcasting.
Go no farther. There's nothing in this cave worth dying for. Those were the words printed on the sign at the entrance of an underwater cave in Vortex Springs, a favorite spot among divers in Florida. Despite this plaintive warning and the drawing of the Grim Reaper that accompanied it, many divers of differing skill levels failed to heed these words in search of adventure. On August 18, 2010, 30-year-old Ben McDaniel was seen entering the water in his scuba gear. He was never seen on land again. What was at first assumed to be a tragic yet straightforward diving accident came into question as days went by without Ben's body being found. Did Ben get deeper into the cave than anyone could have imagined? Or did someone remove him from the water before searchers could find him? Some have questioned if Ben was ever in the water at all that night, or if something completely different happened on the ground. The only thing we know for sure is that after a decade, despite an extensive search and a hefty reward, no one knows for sure what happened to Ben McDaniel. When a person goes missing, there's a special kind of pain in the not knowing. I want to tell you the stories of those who never came home. Today, I want to tell you the story of Ben McDaniel. I'm Kona Gallagher.
And I'm Ethan Flick.
And this is And Then They Were Gone. Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back.
Thank you for joining us once again. I'm Kona.
And I'm Ethan.
And we are the husband and wife team behind this podcast. Each week I tell you the story of an unsolved missing persons case. Ethan doesn't know anything about this case going into the episode, and he is here to provide his reactions and questions in real time, hopefully asking some of the same ones that you have at home. Before we get started today, I want to thank Taffany M., who's joined us over on Patreon. Thank you, Taffany, so much for your support.
Thank you.
As a reminder, you can get episodes early and ad-free at any level on our Patreon. You can also get ad-free episodes by subscribing to us on Apple Podcasts. So now let's get into the case of Ben McDaniel. Benjamin Wayne McDaniel was born on April 15, 1980 to Shelby and Patty McDaniel in Collierville, Tennessee, outside of Memphis. Ben was the oldest of 3 boys. He had 2 younger brothers, Tim and Paul. He also had a half-brother, Brad. Now, the McDaniel family was wealthy, but while money certainly helps with a lot of things, it doesn't protect you from tragedy. In 2008, Ben's younger brother Paul died of what was believed at the time to have been a stroke. He was only 22.
When you say believed at the time, what does that mean?
Well, so it was believed at the time to have been either like a stroke or a heart attack. He was unconscious and was taken to the hospital. It was later found that it was basically related to an opioid overdose.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah. But the family didn't find that out until much later. Obviously, the entire family was just devastated in general because Paul was only 22. And so along with his brother Tim, Ben started the Paul McDaniel Foundation to raise awareness about strokes and organ donation.
Good for them.
Mm-hmm. Ben was always an outdoorsy guy, and Paul had been his frequent rock climbing buddy. He attended the University of Memphis, but didn't choose a major that would have kept him indoors and chained to a desk. Instead, he decided on construction management. His free-spirited nature led him to opening his own construction business after his 2004 graduation. Ben got married, and things seemed to be moving along nicely for him. But then, of course, came the 2008 death of Paul. Ben was the one who found his little brother unresponsive in his home.
That's really tough.
Yeah. So he found him, obviously had no idea what was going on. He tried to clear his airway and perform CPR, and he called 911 when his efforts failed to revive Paul. Paul was rushed to the hospital, but again, didn't make it. Ben, as you can imagine, was plunged into grief, and it seems as though after this, things really started to go downhill for him. Paul's obituary mentions his survivors, of course, including Ben and his wife, Sarah. I don't have the exact timeline for any of this, but at some point shortly thereafter, he and Sarah split up. Now, coincidentally, 2008, the year of Paul's death, was also the year of the huge U.S. housing market crash.
Right.
And that, combined with a bad business partner, caused his construction business to fail. So he had to declare bankruptcy, and Ben also ended up losing his house. He also ended up with a reported $50,000 tax debt to both the state of Tennessee and to the IRS.
Was that like through his business?
I think so. It might have been a combination of both, but yeah, $50,000. By 2010, Ben McDaniel's life had basically fallen apart.
Yeah, definitely not in a good spot.
No. He basically, as you can imagine, fell into a pretty deep depression, I mean, with everything just piling on top of each other. And it had to have been difficult for Ben's parents, who are still grieving over Paul's death, to see their other son struggling so much. So they suggested that he get out of Tennessee and basically take a sabbatical. The family had a beach house in Santa Rosa Beach, Florida, and they offered it to Ben. They'd pay his expenses while he took a year off and worked on healing.
Jeez, that's nice.
I know, right? Ben smartly jumped at the idea, and along with his chocolate lab Spooner, he moved down there in April 2010. Around this time, he also reconnected with an old girlfriend, Emily Greer, who worked as a wetlands biologist. The move to the beach also allowed Ben to rediscover one of his long-held passions, scuba diving. Ben had begun diving when he was 14, taking his tanks into the family pool in Tennessee. He eventually became a certified open water diver, and once he moved to Florida, discovered nearby Vortex Springs. Though Ben lived on the beach, he preferred freshwater diving, and Vortex Springs provided the perfect opportunity as it was located inland just north of Ponce de Leon. Ben soon became a fixture at the springs and on online scuba diving forums. In person, he was hard to miss at 6'1" and 210 pounds. Employees and fellow divers would often see him in the water or on the banks jotting notes in his diving log. Ben had all the right equipment and seemed to know what he was doing. All divers are required to have an open water certification, which Ben had. However, one employee, Chuck Cronin, said that Ben was often overconfident in his diving abilities. For instance, though diving buddy is recommended for safety reasons, Ben often dove alone. But Ben didn't just ignore safety advice. He also broke some pretty serious rules. I work from home, so it drives me crazy when my house is a mess, but I don't really have the time or the mental energy to keep it looking as clean as I want. That's why I'm so glad that HomeAglow exists. They're a top-rated home service platform that's dedicated to making your space clean and tidy. And what I love is their flexibility and how easy it is to use. They have online booking capabilities that allow you to instantly schedule a cleaner in your area for a special occasion, party, or for regular cleanings. Cleaners pass a rigorous certification process and maintain a 4.8-star average platform rating. It's a fantastic way to support cleaners in your community, and 100% of cleaning fees and tips go directly to your cleaner. To schedule a cleaning, you simply go to HomeAglow's website to choose the day and time you're looking for and the duration of your cleaning to match with the cleaner. The best part is their Forever Clean membership, which saves you $30 an hour on all future cleanings. You can book unlimited cleanings starting at $19 an hour, backed by HomeAglow's happiness guarantee. Take home cleaning off your plate this fall by using HomeAglow. Head to homeaglow.com/ATTWG to get your first 3 hours of cleaning for only $19. That's HomeAglow.com/ATTWG. Are you planning a trip abroad this year? Imagine how much better your travel experience could be if you could speak the language. With Rosetta Stone, you'll gain the confidence to have real conversations and create deeper connections wherever you go. Rosetta Stone is the trusted leader in language learning for over 30 years. Their immersive, intuitive method helps you naturally absorb and retain your new language on desktop or mobile, whenever and wherever it fits your schedule. One of my favorite places to visit is Spain, and as it turns out, my 3 years of high school Spanish does not quite cut it over there. And that's what's great about Rosetta Stone. You can learn faster and retain longer. They immerse you in your new language naturally, which helps you think and communicate with confidence. There are no English translations, so you truly learn to speak, listen, and think in your chosen language. So don't wait. Unlock your language learning potential now. And Then They Were Gone listeners can grab Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership for 50% off. That's unlimited access to 25 language courses for life. Visit rosettastone.com/today to get started and claim your 50% off today. Don't miss out. Go to rosettastone.com/today and start learning today. This is a paid advertisement from BetterHelp. We've all done it before. We've turned to our barista, our hairdresser, or, a random stranger in the bathroom and asked for life advice. And while all of that does have its place, when you're looking for help about relationships, anxiety, or other clinical issues, they might not have all the right answers. Instead, why not try talking to a credentialed therapist online with BetterHelp? BetterHelp has been helping people find their match for over 10 years. And their therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the U.S. BetterHelp does the initial matching work for you so you can focus on your therapy goals. All you have to do is fill out a short questionnaire to identify your needs and preferences, and their 10-plus years of experience and industry-leading match fulfillment rate means that they will typically get it right the first time. But if you aren't happy with your match, you can switch to a different therapist at any time. Plus, this is so convenient. It's completely online, so you can use your subscription whenever you need to. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. And as a special offer, our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/ATTWG. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/ATTWG. Find the one with BetterHelp. Ever noticed how many unnecessary chemicals are in your cleaning products? When I started looking into what I was actually using around my home, I realized that my laundry detergent might just be the worst offender. So many popular brands are packed with harsh chemicals that can irritate your skin, mess up your hormones, and cause allergic reactions. So instead of continuing to use those dye-filled pods, I switched to EarthBreeze. Their detergent actually comes in sheets that are free from harsh chemicals like optical brighteners, dyes, parabens, phosphates, and preservatives. It also doesn't come in those plastic jugs. It's just a lightweight, pre-measured sheet that dissolves in the wash and gets the job done. And yes, your clothes still come out clean, fresh, and soft. I feel so much better knowing that I'm not exposing myself and my family to those unnecessary toxins. So if you're looking for a powerful clean without the harsh chemicals, try EarthBreeze. It's easy to switch, and if you're not completely satisfied, they have an amazing money-back guarantee. And right now, you can try EarthBreeze for up to 40% off plus 4 free gifts at earthbreeze.com/ATTWG. That's earthbreeze.com/ATTWG for 40% off plus 4 free gifts. Vortex Springs bills itself as the largest diving center in the state, and divers love it because of its clear water that is fed from the Floridan aquifer. There's a cavern full of wildlife at 58 feet deep, which is also a big draw. But the more daring and experienced divers love it for something else. Its cave. The cave at Vortex Springs is 300 feet from the cavern and 115 feet or 35 meters down. At the entrance is the Grim Reaper sign I mentioned in the intro, the one that says, "Go no farther, there's nothing in this cave worth dying for." Despite this, many divers do in fact decide to venture in. But here's what's important to note. Doing so requires an additional certification. In addition to the open water certification, there's also a cave diving certification, which requires 125 hours of additional training. Ben was only certified to dive up to depths of 30 meters, so he could go to the cavern, which was 18 meters down, but he wasn't even supposed to go to the entrance of that cave because it was too deep. The reason diving deeper than 30 meters requires a separate certification is because it requires a special combination of breathing gases in your tanks to keep you from getting decompression sickness, aka the bends,
Right.
or nitrogen narcosis.
Oh, that sounds ominous.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, right? And also, like, narcosis made me think of necrosis. And I was like, what is it doing to you? Like, it sounds really scary.
Yeah.
It's not necrosis. Narcosis is an intoxicating effect that causes dizziness, lightheadedness, elation, euphoria, and anxiety, all potentially causing the diver to make poor decisions and mistakes. In severe cases, narcosis can cause debilitating inertia, blindness, unconsciousness, and death.
Yikes.
Yeah, right?
That's some pretty serious symptoms there.
Yeah, and definitely not anything you'd want to experience when you're like 35 meters down in a flippin' cave. I want to take a moment right here too and pause to say that I know absolutely nothing about scuba diving because it does not and never has sounded remotely appealing to me.
Same.
Like, I am claustrophobic. I am scared of the water. I mean, I'm not scared of the water. Like, I go swimming and shit, but I'm scared of what's down there. Like, I don't want to, it is none of my business I feel like the ocean, like, what is beyond what I can see with my 2 eyes, like, just like looking in, none of my business. Don't need to know.
Yeah. No.
Not put there for me.
I watched The Abyss when I was a kid, and like, great movie. Probably doesn't hold up. I have no idea, but terrified me of scuba diving.
Yeah, listen, I don't know, but I saw James Cameron go down and look at the Titanic, and that was enough for me. Like, it's none of my business. However, luckily for this story, there's a Reddit user by the name of Misadventure Mystery who is apparently a diver. And they did an extensive write-up on Ben's case that included a lot of this technical information. Like, I had no idea that there are multiple certifications and multiple depths and, all that kind of stuff, right? So anything in here that makes it sound as though I know the first thing about diving is mainly because of this person. The Reddit posts, of course, are listed in our sources on the blog. I highly recommend that you read them for yourselves if you're interested in this and, getting a deeper dive. Pun absolutely intended. I was so proud of that. All right. Anyway, all of this is to say that Ben was a decent diver with many years of experience, but he was not extensively trained. Despite this lack of training, many people believe that Ben routinely visited the cave at Vortex Springs, and he was seen in the vicinity of the cave by other divers. Ben's girlfriend, Emily, lived in Tennessee, so in early to mid-August, he returned there for about a week to visit her and his parents. Ben was in great spirits on that trip, and he told Emily that he was looking forward to getting certified as a diving instructor. He also said that he had been researching cave diving with the idea of getting certified in that as well. Ever the entrepreneur, Ben's eventual plan was to open his own diving business. Before leaving Tennessee on August 15th, Ben wrote his parents a note thanking them for helping him through his difficult time. He also promised to return the favor and take care of them in their old age. On August 18th, Ben was back home in Florida and back at Vortex Springs. He did a dive that afternoon, and other divers later reported seeing him near the cave looking around, almost as if he was investigating. After this dive, security footage shows Ben at the dive shop filling his tanks. We don't, however, know what he was filling the tanks with. And this obviously becomes important later. He spent the rest of the afternoon hanging around, testing equipment, and writing in his dive log. It definitely seemed to witnesses that he was gearing up for something.
Like going into the cave for the first time?
Well, no, not necessarily for the first time, but yeah, because, witnesses had already seen him poking around, right?
So maybe diving deeper into the cave.
Yeah, but it did. It seemed like he was kind of investigating, getting the lay of the land, so to speak. And was just making a plan. And it turns out that Ben was gearing up for another dive. At 7:30 that evening, Ben went back in. Now, by this time, the dive shop was closed. Two employees, Chuck Cronin, who I mentioned earlier, and Eduardo Terran, often went on dives after closing up the shop. In fact, they had a tradition of going on Wednesday evening dives specifically, and August 18th was a Wednesday. So they went on their dive, I don't know what time, but earlier. And so by the time Ben was coming in at 7:30, they were basically coming back up. So they saw him with his lighted helmet heading in. Now, even though they knew Ben wasn't certified for cave diving, it was pretty well known that he was going down there anyway. Technically, anyone who dives down deep enough can go into the cave, but as it narrows and gets more dangerous, there's actually a locked metal gate that is basically there to keep inexperienced divers from venturing into a spot that they can't get out of.
This all sounds terrifying.
Right? Like a sign with I'm sorry, if I'm anywhere and I see a sign with a Grim Reaper and it's like an old pirate sign that is like abandon all hope ye who enter here,
yeah,
I'm out.
No,
I'm so far out.
No chance. And like a metal gate underwater. Mm-mm.
No. And so check this. So in order to access this metal gate, basically you go up to the dive shop, you show the employees, your cave diving certification, and they'll give you the key. And then you take the key underwater and unlock the gate.
Mm-mm.
It is so scary to me, just even reading about this. Now, this gate, however, is not insanely secure. I mean, it's mainly supposed to be a deterrent, Mm-hmm. So if somebody is kind of brave, they don't just accidentally find themselves again in a tight space that they physically can't get out of.
Right.
Now, apparently Chuck and Eduardo had suspected that Ben was forcing his way past the gate. So that night, Taryn actually dove down and opened it for him. The idea behind this was that if he was going to go down there anyway, they could at least make it slightly more safe by removing this obstacle.
Okay.
I don't know about all that, but that's apparently the reasoning. Evening dives were a common practice for Ben, and oftentimes Chuck and or Eduardo would kind of hang back until they saw the bubbles that indicated Ben was coming back to the surface. On this night, however, the pair left while Ben was still down there. The next day, Thursday, was a busy day at Vortex Springs. It's the dead of summer in Florida, which is not very pleasant climate-wise for anybody who's been there. Florida in August is not something that people typically write home about. And Vortex Springs isn't just a place for diving. They actually have like water slides and a picnic area. It's kind of like a whole park situation. So it attracts a lot of families. Basically, they just had people in and out all day, and nobody apparently noticed that Ben's truck was still in the parking lot. The next morning, though, Friday, employees did notice Ben's truck there. From what it sounds like, they noticed when they first opened, or, like when the first employees arrived to open, but then they didn't see Ben anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So then they started talking to each other, comparing notes, and determined that no one had seen Ben since Wednesday evening. So that is when Eduardo called the police. What I find interesting is that according to a Tampa Bay Times article, the police immediately treated the area like a crime scene, even stringing up yellow crime scene tape.
That is curious. I wonder if it is dependent on what Eduardo said to them.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't have details of what exactly he told them. But yeah, apparently they just treated it like a crime scene right off the bat, which we don't usually hear about in cases like this.
Or maybe they were just assuming that, or not necessarily even assuming, but thinking that if he had drowned, they would want to preserve any evidence right away.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a kind of a common practice in that area.
Yeah. It very well may be. I don't know. They searched Ben's truck and inside found his wallet containing his driver's license, his diver certifications, and about $1,000 in cash. They also found his cell phone and other personal items.
Yeah, things you wouldn't want to get wet.
Exactly, right? They eventually, checked his cell phone, and the last call that was made was before the dive, and it was to his mother. More importantly, they also found his dive log in which he had mapped the cave. Holmes County Sheriff's Captain Harry Hamilton knew that Ben needed help. Cave diving first started to become a thing in the 80s, and as such was largely unregulated.
Mm-hmm.
This led to a lot of deaths.
I can imagine.
Yeah, with 13 people dying at Vortex Springs alone during this decade. As the hobby became more regulated, deaths predictably went down. When Ben took his dive in 2010, only about a half dozen people worldwide died each year cave diving. The gate I mentioned earlier is about 300 feet from the mouth of the cave. As you get in deeper, it gets more treacherous with many narrow passages, some measuring just 10 inches from floor to ceiling.
Nope.
10 inches. So imagine you're swimming and there's a 10-inch high opening. I feel like my head is 10 inches. I feel like there's no way a human could fit through there.
Why would you even want to try?
I don't know. I'm getting, I think my heart rate is up just thinking about it. But these areas are so narrow that the divers can't wear the tanks on their backs. They have to wear them on their sides. After the diving community began to find out about the missing diver, a recovery team was established and went down to find Ben. These were, of course, cave certified divers who were aware of the risks that they were facing. And they went down and immediately made a discovery. They didn't find Ben, but they did find his decompression tanks. He would have needed these in order to safely resurface, so finding those and no diver around them was certainly disconcerting.
Yeah.
Diver after diver continued to venture into the cave, each one going deeper than the last. But they found nothing else. They searched until nearly midnight, but no Ben. Divers in the crowd were all flabbergasted. The recovery team had gone deep into the crevices of the cave, but didn't find the missing diver. They couldn't believe that he had gotten further than they had already gone, but, I mean, he must have, because where else would he be?
Yeah, I mean, I guess. Nothing else makes sense.
No. I mean, there was no sign of him on land. All of his stuff was in his car. Nobody had seen him reemerge from the water. There were security cameras there, like around the dive shop. He wasn't on them. Everything pointed to Ben being in the water, and more specifically in that cave.
Right. Why would he take his decompression tanks off? Maybe to fit somewhere smaller?
Yeah, apparently, and I might get this wrong, but I think I read somewhere that like you take multiple tanks and then like leave them in certain places so that you can like kind of grab them and like mark your way back almost.
Okay.
And then like grab them if you need them or when you need them, not if. So it might have been something along those lines.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, so this next part comes directly from that Tampa Bay Times article that I mentioned, written by Ben Montgomery. Quote, "The mapped portion of the cave ends at a narrow restriction about 150 feet deep and 1,500 feet of mostly horizontal penetration, about the length of 5 football fields. The tiny hole, as small as 10 inches from floor to ceiling, is the last known restriction. Some divers say it's impassable. Some say you can get in, but you won't get out. On the official map, it simply says, exploration continues." End quote.
God, yes, it's claustrophobic.
Ugh. Local law enforcement broke the news to Ben's parents in Tennessee around 11 a.m. on Friday. They knew that there was no way Ben could have survived underwater for that long. They broke the terrible news to Ben's girlfriend, Emily, threw some clothes in the bag, and started the heartbreaking 7-hour drive down to Florida. Scuba shop owner and expert recovery diver Ed Sorensen was on vacation in the Bahamas when all of this was going on, so he hadn't heard about the missing diver. After recovery efforts on Saturday were also unsuccessful, his phone began to get bombarded with texts and calls, some from the divers who had already gone down. One said that he had almost died, while another told Ed that there was no way Ben could have gotten further into the cave than he went. Ed returned to Florida and decided to join the recovery effort. When he went down, he squeezed himself into impossible crevices, venturing 200 feet past the end of the map.
Jeez.
There, he saw marks on the cave walls that another rescuer had made in order to map his progress, to like show how far he had gotten.
Yeah.
Ed managed to make it another 20 feet after that. But there, he saw no markings, either from a rescuer or from Ben. Not only did he not see any markings or equipment or any indication that Ben had been down there, but if Ben were dead and wedged somewhere he couldn't see, there would have been increased activity from the scavengers.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, all the eels and, and the different fish, but there was nothing. Ben was also an inch taller and 20 pounds heavier than Ed, and while that might not be a big difference on land, that's a huge difference when you're talking about squeezing into these tight spaces.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a 10-inch space.
Yeah.
20 pounds makes it
that's
a huge difference.
A gigantic difference. It even said that, like, at one point, Ed couldn't get through, like, one of the crevices. He had to, like, turn his head sideways in order to make it through. If you're turning your head sideways instead of having it, straight ahead, like, 20 pounds is...
Yeah, that's definitely going to prevent you from getting into that same crevice.
Yeah, absolutely. Ed did 3 separate dives. And when he finished, he believed that there was no way that Ben had made it further than he did.
So this is a lake, though, right? This isn't like...
Well, yeah, it's like a spring, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not like the ocean where it goes on forever or whatever. So, like...
Right.
Did they then... Did they look for him in other parts of the lake as well?
Yes. Yeah. So I'll get into more of the search because they did start to fan out. Obviously, after all of these divers went down and couldn't find them, they're like, okay, well maybe
he
did
made it
end up
out of the
somewhere
cave,
else. Right? But something else happened.
Something happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Because so after, all these people went down, after Ed did his 3 dives, the basic consensus of the divers is that Ben was not down there. Nevertheless, they kept searching. Rescuers organized dives for 36 consecutive days.
Whoa.
But they found no further evidence of Ben. The McDaniels, however, were convinced that Ben was still down in that cave somewhere. Searches continued into November, with the McDaniels becoming more frustrated as divers failed to find their son. The following April, the McDaniels offered a $10,000 reward to entice new searchers. Ben's dad, Shelby, said, quote, "We are offering the $10,000 because there's someone somewhere in this world who is brave enough to go back there and find Ben." End quote.
Or find a watery grave. Find their own.
Exactly. That is the point that divers were making. So this statement and the reward, it was a big point of contention in the diving community because they saw it and the statement as a dig on the many divers who had already risked their lives to find their son's remains. They were also fearful that it would tempt the wrong person who would go down there in hopes of getting the money and not make it back up.
Right.
Nevertheless, the reward was eventually raised to $30,000. In 2012, a diver named Larry Higginbottom died in the cave at Vortex Springs. There was no definitive proof that he was diving in hopes of collecting the reward, but many people strongly suspected that that was the case. Cadaver dogs were brought in by the sheriff's department. One reacted strongly to the surface of the water, indicating that there was human decomposition. One reacted less strongly, indicating that there was a possibility of human decomposition. However, someone from the health department came in and tested the water in 30 different places. He found no evidence of bacteria that would indicate the presence of decomposition. Now, kind of what you were getting at before with, were they looking in other areas of the water? Yes, the possibility of Ben dying outside of the cave and getting swept away was also investigated. Tracking dogs were used and searches downstream were performed, but nothing was found. With divers pretty much universally convinced that Ben wasn't in the water, investigators started to look at other options because there was definitely some weirdness about this entire situation, not the least of which, of course, being the fact that they can't find Ben. So remember those decompression tanks that they found?
Yeah.
It turns out that they were filled with regular air, not the special mix of gases that would have been needed for cave diving. Even though Ben, again, wasn't certified as a cave diver, he had done enough research that he would have known what he needed to take down with him.
Sure.
And then also because it does seem as though he had been down in the caves before. So he obviously would have.
He had to have known what to put in the decompression tanks.
Exactly. And that also seems like a mistake you only make once, right? Like if you put the wrong air in and you somehow survive, you don't do that a second time.
Yeah.
And you certainly don't put the right mix of air, of gases in the tanks for some dives and then, on a later dive go, oh, I'll just fill these ones with air. Like,
yeah,
that's not what you do. So they didn't really know what that meant, but it was definitely strange. And they do know they were his tanks. They literally had his name on them. Then there was the fact that Ben's truck wasn't noticed for 2 days. Yes, it was busy, like I said, but his truck was parked in a visible spot. Plus, it was discovered presumably when the employees first got there, in the morning on Friday. So what about the employees?
They didn't notice it on Thursday?
Yeah. And nobody, or maybe they did.
But nobody said anything.
Yeah, nobody clocked it as weird, which, okay, fine. Maybe you're thinking that he was getting an early start or whatever, and, not a big deal because he was there all the time. But would they have noticed that it was still there when they were closing?
Right.
Yeah. Plus, there was the fact that Chuck and Eduardo usually stuck around to make sure that Ben made it up safely, but on that particular night, they decided to go back to Eduardo's house for coffee.
For coffee?
Yeah, which is just like a weird detail. I don't know. But either way, it does seem strange that that was the night that they chose to just take off.
Yeah, I'm not 100% on their version of the story.
Right. Well, and neither were investigators. So they actually asked them to take polygraphs. And they agreed, and they both passed.
Remind me again, was there security footage of their interaction and like Ben going into the water?
I don't think so, because I think the security footage was like more around the dive shop.
Okay.
So I don't think the cameras like were around the water, but I believe, it covered at least like part of the parking lot, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sure it showed them leaving. I don't know about that specifically, but I do know that Ben was never seen leaving, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
The dive shop owner, Lowell Kelly, told investigators that a wild-eyed man had come by on that Wednesday and asked if it was too late to dive. He gave this information to investigators with the thought that maybe this man had something to do with it, like maybe he abducted Ben.
Okay.
But Ben, according to Chuck and Eduardo, would have been in all of his dive gear, which wasn't found.
Right.
And he was a pretty big dude. Again, 6'1", 210 pounds. So like, how do you abduct a big guy in like all of this dive gear without any sign of a struggle?
Right.
And why?
Yes. Right. Why?
And
what does a wild-eyed guy mean? What that is a
sound wild eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lowell was kind of a character from what it sounds like. And we'll talk about him more in a minute here. But also, along with the like random abduction or like whatever theory, Ben's truck was left behind and he had like $1,000 worth of cash. And if I'm just a random criminal with no ties to Ben or to anybody, I feel like I would try the truck first, if I'm like trying to steal something or whatever. And, nobody tried to break in or take anything. So why would you go straight to like trying to abduct a grown man?
I don't know. I mean, people do wild stuff.
I mean, it's true, especially if you have wild eyes, I guess. But, they kind of obviously discarded that theory. And then, as time went on, more and more theories. Like maybe it wasn't this random stranger. Maybe it was somebody in Ben's life, like his ex-business partner. Like maybe he came down to Florida and did something. But like nobody really thought, that I don't have a lot of details about their partnership and how it went bad and all of that, but it just seemed a little too outside of anything. Like, why would he do it? It was over,
Yeah. Yeah.
Investigators also, of course, considered the possibility that Ben staged his death and went off to start a new life.
Yeah, that's not outside of the realm of possibilities.
No, absolutely not. After all, he had a lot of issues. No job, tax debt, a failed business, no home of his own. On the surface, he seemed like the type of person who would want to just run away and start over and escape his problems. But those closest to him didn't believe that Ben could do that to his parents. He saw what Paul's death did to them, and no one who knew Ben believed that he would willingly inflict that pain on his parents. Plus, Ben was in a good place when he disappeared. Like, yeah, it had been rough for him, but his relationship with Emily was going well, and he was planning for the future. Then there was Spooner, his dog. When police went to Ben's house on Friday, the day he was reported missing, Spooner was there, hungry after not being fed for 2 days.
Oh, Spooner.
I know. Like, would he have left his dog to suffer like that?
Yeah, no way.
Yeah. So it didn't make sense. Although that theory, honestly, is one that's still out there. And especially when you go back to those dive tanks, the fact that they were just filled with regular air kind of leads people to believe that they were staged there.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, but I don't know. The dog bothers me. Like, obviously, anybody that has a dog is very close with their animal. And, like, if you're going to, like, run off and start a new life, you can still take the dog.
Right. Or at least just make sure that he's safe and somebody...
he's taken care of.
Exactly. You don't just leave him in your house, like, locked up with no food.
Yeah.
But the McDaniels did, though, briefly consider this, right? Like, maybe he did run away. Maybe he had some sort of, like, psychotic break and just, like, compulsively ran off. But they eventually discarded this and did start to consider foul play. They hired a private investigator, Lynn Marie Carty, to look into the people associated with Ben and with Vortex Springs. And as it turned out, several people had criminal records.
What level of criminal records, though?
Well, so I don't know specifically about most of them. Who we do know about is Vortex Springs owner Lowell Kelly. At the time of Ben's disappearance, he was in a little bit of hot water.
Okay.
He had allegedly taken a temporary employee who, one story said that the guy owed Lowell thousands of dollars. Another story that I read said that Lowell accused this man of stealing like $30,000. But either way, he believed that this man owed him money. So he took him out to the woods, like near an alligator pond, apparently, and attempted to beat him with a baseball bat to make him pay up.
Jesus.
Yeah. The man fortunately escaped and went to the police. Kelly was charged with assault and kidnapping. He was eventually convicted of aggravated assault and sentenced to 7 years probation. The man he attacked was so freaked out that he moved his family out of the area and swore he'd never return.
So what does this have to do with Ben?
Well, it proves that this guy who owns the dive shop, where Ben disappeared, has a violent history.
Sure.
And, the thought is that maybe he got into an argument with Ben or something along those lines, and he did something to Ben and hit his body. And either Chuck and Eduardo were helping him cover it up by coming up with this like evening dive story, or it happened after the dive. And, Chuck and Eduardo passed the polygraph because as far as they knew, they were telling the truth. Ben never came back up. And, something happened between Lowell Kelly and him afterwards. But in terms of like a motive that Kelly would have had, I mean, nothing was ever uncovered.
Yeah, it's not like Ben has any money.
Yeah, but then also, why? I mean, $1,000 is a lot of cash.
Well, his parents are rich.
His parents are rich. But yeah, I would be interested. I never read anything that said if Ben was the type of person who carried a lot of cash with him, right? If that was a normal occurrence. Because to me, like, it would be absurd to have $1,000 in my wallet unless I was like going somewhere that I needed to pay $1,000 in cash for a particular reason,
Right.
So I don't know if that's the type of person he was, or if perhaps there was a particular reason that day he had $1,000 in cash on him, and could whatever that reason have something to do with his disappearance.
Mm-hmm.
In March 2012, about 19 months after their son went missing, the McDaniels brought in a second round of cadaver dogs. And part of the reason that they did this was to look for clues that would have potentially pointed to Lowell Kelly having had something to do with Ben's disappearance. They didn't find anything, but even if they had, Kelly wouldn't have faced any charges, because by this time he was dead. And he also died under mysterious circumstances.
Okay.
Did you know that a single finger prick at home can give you over 180 personalized insights into how to improve your health and slow your aging? If you've been listening to this show for a while, you know that I tried the True Age and True Health test by True Diagnostic, and it showed me things I never learned from my regular physicals. True Health looks at over 105 biomarkers tied to your nutritional, metabolic, immune, and cognitive health. You'll see your vitamin levels, your nutrient balance, inflammation, gut health, and more. True Age measures 75 plus biomarkers to reveal your biological age, your pace of aging, and the age of key organ systems. It doesn't just give you a single number, it shows how your heart, brain, liver, and immune system are all aging. Together, the combo gives you a complete picture of your health today, along with personalized recommendations to improve your health and slow down aging. For me, it really inspired me to work on my cardiovascular health. It's so hard to get answers at the doctor's office, so I loved getting this report that had so much information on it. If you're serious about living healthier and longer, visit TrueDiagnostic.com and use my code ATTWG for 20% off your entire order or subscription. That's TrueDiagnostic.com, code ATTWG for 20% off. Your future self will thank you. Recently, we agreed to give our youngest son an allowance. The problem is, we never actually had any cash, and so he would do his chores, and we just wouldn't have anything to give him. That's when we started to use Acorns Early. Acorns Early is the smart debit card and money app that grows kids' money skills as they grow up. You can start with the in-app chores tracker and teach your kids the value of $1. Then, you let your kids set their own savings goals and start building healthy money habits early. Kids even get their very own customizable debit card, giving them that extra sense of independence. Plus, with Acorn Early spending limits and real-time spend notifications, parents always stay in control. It's truly the easiest way to 1, give your kids an allowance, and 2, teach them financial literacy without making it boring. Ready to teach your kids the smart way to earn, save, and spend? Get your first month on us when you head to acornsearly.com/ATTWG or download the Acorns Early app. That's 1 month free when you sign up at acornsearly.com/ATTWG.
Acorns Early Card is issued by Community Federal Savings Bank, member FDIC, pursuant to license by MasterCard International. Free trial for new subscribers only. Subscription fee starting from $5 per month unless canceled. Terms apply at acorns.com/early terms.
In December 2011, there was a party at Vortex Springs. Kelly was reportedly drinking moonshine and got pretty drunk, as you can imagine, and a friend helped him home. Now, during the journey home, Kelly fell and hit his head. The friend got him home and left him in the bathtub overnight. One story I read said that he covered him with a blanket in the bathtub and left. I don't know why the bathtub and not the bed or the couch or even the floor.
I guess maybe in case he threw up, he could clean it up easier.
Guess?
I don't know.
I don't know. But he was left in the bathtub. Then a different friend went to his house the next morning, I guess to check on him, and saw that Kelly was still in the bathtub, but was unresponsive. He called 911 and paramedics rushed him to the hospital. Lowell Kelly never regained consciousness and died several days later. Police investigated the death, but as far as I can tell, no determination of foul play or anything else was ever made. The PI, Lynn Marie Carty, was frustrated that the sheriff's department wasn't looking too hard into the possibility of Ben being the victim of a homicide, saying that there was just as much reason to look for Ben above ground as there was to look for him in the water. It's so weird, right? Like, it doesn't sound like there's any way Ben could be in that cave.
No, not with the level of divers that have gone down and explored farther than anyone ever had before.
Yeah. And, even Eduardo, he talked about how I don't know for how long afterwards on his Wednesday dives, like he would go and look for Ben, like not to get the reward or anything, but just because it bothered him.
Yeah.
And, like I said, nobody ever found anything else other than those decompression tanks.
So then you think, okay, if he's not there and, he's not in another part of the lake because they explored that already.
Yeah.
then...
And the shore and,
Yeah. So then he gets out of the water, something happens, but there's no evidence that anything happened on land either.
Right.
Because
no sign of a struggle.
they looked.
Like there's no blood anywhere.
Right.
None of his equipment, his wetsuit, goggles, like nothing.
Right. So what does that leave us with?
I don't know. Let's go back to he faked his death. Why leave $1,000 in cash?
Right. Unless, well, yeah, I don't know. That doesn't make any sense.
Right. Because, okay, maybe it would be suspicious if he left an empty wallet, but maybe leave $100 in there or something.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like $1,000 is a lot to
Yeah.
leave behind.
Right.
I don't know the exact coverage of the security cameras at the dive shop, but, he wasn't seen on them. And would he have known enough about the coverage of the security cameras to avoid them?
Right. Yeah.
Like maybe, I don't know.
It's hard to say.
And, of course, as the days and weeks and months and, everything went on, police kept an eye on his bank accounts and his Facebook profile and, all of the normal stuff. And there was never any activity. And not only that, but there have never been any reported sightings of him. Like not even false ones, just nothing.
Right. Which we did get in Hoagie's case.
Yeah.
Robert Hoagland.
Yep. Yeah, there were reported sightings.
Yeah. So then it goes back to foul play, to murder.
Right.
But again, there's no
There's no
there's
evidence.
No sign.
And so one theory that I didn't even really talk about in the episode because it doesn't make any sense is that Ben did drown in the cave or, in the water or like whatever, right? And the dive shop employees or, Lowell Kelly, like whoever, somebody associated with the dive shop, took his body out of the water and did something with it in order to avoid liability. But like,
I mean, it's
that doesn't, it doesn't make any sense because, they admitted that they unlocked the gate for him.
right.
They admitted that they knew he had been going down there and he wasn't certified. Like they're admitting all sorts of
Things that could open them up to a wrongful death lawsuit.
right.
Yes. Right.
And so so that doesn't make any sense that they would just like, oh shit, somebody had an accident. Like, let's go hide the body. Because again, that happens. And it happened in 2012 with Larry Higginbottom. He died in that cave and he was found because, he didn't show up to wherever he was supposed to show up to.
Mm-hmm.
They went down the next day. They found him and called all the proper authorities and, did whatever.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that theory is debunked.
yeah. So that's why I didn't even like put it in the episode.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, maybe he was murdered and then fed to the alligators.
Sure. But where was he murdered and how?
And why and by whom? And
how is there no
evidence.
trace evidence?
Yeah. Right. And again, he had all of his equipment, everything.
Right. Where is all that?
Yeah.
Alligators don't eat metal air tanks.
Right. You would think that they would have disposed of it, but like it just, all of it just seems like there isn't a single answer that I feel like makes sense.
Yeah, I'm stumped by this one.
Yeah. It's just so spooky just because of the cave diving in general,
Yeah.
which is spooky as hell
Yeah.
under the best of circumstances. And then to have just nothing makes sense.
He's just gone.
Yeah. The McDaniels are tortured by unanswered questions. Though their younger son Paul's death was horribly tragic, some good came out of it. They were able to donate his organs. They even had the opportunity to meet the man who received their son's heart and listen to it beat once more through a stethoscope. With Ben, they just have a suitcase that family and friends filled with notes and mementos that they buried near Paul. Taryn was at Vortex Springs in 2012 when the McDaniels were down there with the cadaver dogs. Shelby, Ben's dad, gave him a small granite slab that they had made up. It said, Ben McDaniel, 1980 to 2010, beloved son and brother. He gave it to Taryn, who said he would find a nice place down in the cave to place it. 3 years after Ben's last dive at Vortex Springs, he was legally declared dead. Shelby McDaniel went on to a forum on scubaboard.com about Ben in order to give the divers who had been following Ben's story, some of whom assisted in the recovery efforts, an update. He said, quote, "This upcoming August 18th, he will have been missing 3 years. We miss him. All his furniture and clothes are as it was the day he left to dive at Vortex Springs. I drive his truck now. Of course, his dog Spooner lives with us, as does Paul's dog Emma. We have Paul's bedroom suite as it was when he died of a stroke September 14th, 2008. We miss him too, and Paul lives on as he gave the gift of life to 4 people and his tissue to help others live a better life. His heart recipient comes to see us every year from Dallas." End quote. As of this recording, in December 2023, no further evidence of Ben McDaniel has been found. Ben McDaniel has been missing from Ponce de Leon, Florida since August 18th, 2010. He is a white male with brown hair and blue eyes. He was 6'1" and approximately 210 pounds at the time of his disappearance. He was last seen wearing a black wetsuit, C-130 scuba tanks, goggles, yellow fins, a computer dive watch, and possibly small round earrings. He was 30 when he went missing. He would be 43 today. Anyone with information on the disappearance of Ben McDaniel is urged to call the Holmes County Sheriff's Office at 850-547-3681. You can see all the sources for this episode along with photos and videos at our website, andthentheyweregone.com.
And be sure to follow us on social, and Then They Were Gone Pod on Facebook and at ATTWG Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. If you like what we're doing, please subscribe and consider leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It will help new listeners find us. And the more people that listen, the more chances we have of bringing someone home.
And we'll see you here next week for a brand new episode.
See you next week.
And Then They Were Gone is hosted by Kona Gallagher and Ethan Flick. All research, writing, and editing is done by me, Kona Gallagher. Theme music is The Stork by Ketsa. Additional music is provided by Kai Engel. And Then They Were Gone is a Little Monster production.
Hey, you can do it!